Deep in the icy waters of the North Atlantic, 20 miles off the outer coast of Scotland, lies a desolate, wind-swept cluster of rocks known as the Flannan Isles. For centuries, these jagged cliffs were notorious among sailors as a graveyard for ships. In 1899, a brand new lighthouse was built on the highest point of Eilean Moor, the largest of the islands, designed to pierce through the thick fog and guide ships safely through the roaring sea. To operate this isolated outpost, 3 experienced men were stationed on the island in December of 1900. James Duckett was the principal keeper, a 53-year-old veteran with over 20 years of lighthouse experience. Beside him were Thomas Marshall, a seasoned assistant keeper, and Donald MacArthur, a former sailor who was stepping in as a temporary replacement. These were not naive rookies easily spooked by rough weather. They were hardened, practical men who understood the extreme isolation and perils of the sea. Their routine was simple yet demanding. Day in and day out, they maintained the massive oil lamp, cleaned the glass lenses, logged weather observations, and kept the beacon burning through the long winter nights. Life on Eilean Moor was lonely, quiet, and repetitive. But on the night of December 15, 1900, the routine abruptly shattered. A transatlantic steamer named the SS Fair Passage was navigating through the violent ocean waters near the islands when the captain noticed something terrifyingly wrong. Looking toward the dark outline of Eilean Moor, he expected to see the powerful beam of light sweeping across the waves. Instead, there was absolute darkness. The beacon was completely out. The ship reported the warning upon reaching port, but bad weather delayed any immediate response. Relief ships were grounded due to ferocious gales ripping through the Atlantic. It took 11 full days before weather conditions allowed a relief vessel, the Hesperus, to finally approach the island on the afternoon of December 26. As the ship drew near, Captain James Harvey sounded the vessel's steam whistle and fired a signal flare into the gloomy sky, expecting the lighthouse keepers to run down to the landing station to receive their fresh supplies and mail. But nobody came. No flag had been raised on the flagpole to greet them. The island was eerily dead silent. Joseph Moore, a relief keeper aboard the Hesperus, was rowed ashore to investigate. Step by step, he climbed the steep, slippery iron stairs carved directly into the rock face. Upon reaching the heavy outer door of the lighthouse complex, he discovered it was firmly closed. He pushed it open and stepped into the cold, silent living quarters, calling out the names of his 3 colleagues into the shadows. Only his own echo answered. As Joseph Moore walked deeper into the lighthouse, a heavy sense of dread hung in the chill air. The interior was frozen, still, and completely deserted. When he entered the kitchen area, the scene looked as though time itself had suddenly stopped mid-frame. On the wooden table sat the remains of a prepared meal, a plate of food that had gone cold days ago. One of the chairs was knocked over onto its side, as if someone had scrambled up in a desperate hurry. Checking the hearth, Moore found the fireplace cold and filled with ash, indicating that no fire had burned in the grate for several days. He hurried over to the main clock hanging on the wall. Its pendulum hung motionless. The clock had run down and stopped. Moving into the living quarters, he inspected the bedrooms. The beds were made, unrumpled, and completely empty. Everything inside the living space was remarkably tidy and organized, suggesting there had been no signs of a break-in, no struggle, and no violence within the quarters themselves. However, when Moore inspected the coat pegs near the entrance, he noticed a deeply unsettling detail. Hanging on the hook was a heavy oilskin coat belonging to Donald MacArthur. In the bone-chilling cold of a December storm in the North Atlantic, no experienced lighthouse keeper would ever step outside onto the cliff edges without their heavy, waterproof outerwear. Yet MacArthur's coat was left hanging right there. For some reason, one man had rushed out into the brutal elements completely unprotected. Moore ran back down to the landing dock to inform Captain Harvey of his chilling discoveries. Harvey immediately dispatched additional crew members from the Hesperus to conduct a comprehensive search across every square foot of the island. The search team scoured Eilean Moor from coast to coast, examining the steep cliffs, the rocky shores, and every hidden crevice. What they found on the western side of the island added a terrifying layer to the mystery. The storm damage near the landing platform was staggering. Massive iron railings along the concrete stairs had been twisted completely out of shape, bent like cheap wire by some incomprehensible physical force. A heavy supply box, securely bolted to a concrete slab 40 feet above the high tide line, had been ripped from its moorings, shattered, and scattered across the rocks. Huge blocks of stone weighing over a ton had been displaced and shifted far out of position. Whatever had happened on Eilean Moor was not limited to the lighthouse building itself. An immense, destructive force had struck the island. But despite scouring every inch of the rock, the search team found no bodies, no clothing, and no physical remains of the three men.
When investigators stepped back inside the lighthouse to search for clues, they located the official logbook sitting neatly on the desk. The final written entries would turn this puzzling disappearance into one of the most unsettling mysteries in maritime history. The logbook revealed that in the days leading up to their disappearance, an intense storm had battered the island. An entry written by Thomas Marshall on December 12th described severe, violent winds, noting that he had never witnessed weather so fierce in over 20 years at sea. Marshall wrote that James Duckett was strangely silent, and that Donald MacArthur, a tough, veteran sailor known for his stoic temperament, was sitting and weeping uncontrollably. Further entries on December 13th claimed that all three men were praying together, desperately waiting for the storm to subside. The final entry, logged on the afternoon of December 15th, simply read, "Storm ended, sea calm. God is over all." These entries sent shivers down the spines of the investigators for one single, undeniable reason. Local weather reports, shipping records, and logs from nearby coastal stations across Scotland confirmed that there had been no storm around the Flannan Isles between December 12th and December 15th. The weather on those exact dates had been clear and calm. Why would three veteran keepers log reports of a terrifying, apocalyptic storm when the skies were clear and the sea was still? Was the storm real, or was it a shared psychological breakdown brought on by extreme isolation? Official investigations concluded that a massive, unpredictable rogue wave likely struck the island while the men were securing equipment near the western landing stage, sweeping all three into the icy ocean where they drowned. This theory explains the severe damage to the iron railings and supply box, as well as why their bodies were never recovered from the powerful ocean currents. Yet, this explanation leaves lingering questions. If a rogue wave caught them, why did MacArthur leave his jacket inside? Why did the logbook record phantom storms and weeping men? And why were the doors locked shut? Over a century later, the disappearance of the Flannan Isles lighthouse keepers remains unsolved. The island stands lonely amidst the crashing Atlantic waves, keeping its tragic secret forever buried beneath the dark waters.